In this video, I will take a look at the recent developments in the Bitcoin price. We can see that we are seeing this form, a tightening range, and we see the volume actually declining. And I'm going to go through all of the details about this. But basically, we are going to see a big breakout out of this tightening range at some point. And I want to go through the details and the technicals to try to figure out which side is more likely to break. And I'm actually also going to take a look at Ethereum. We are seeing a similar tightening range in Ethereum, and we have a very well-defined resistance up here that I want to talk about, because if we break this resistance to the upside, that could mean some upwards momentum for Ethereum, and so that is coming up. And I also want to talk about the fact that the lightning torch has been passed on, and in this video I will reveal who actually accepted the lightning torch. And to finish off this video, I want to talk about the fact that the volatility in Bitcoin is going down every single year, and that is very, very bullish. And why do I say that's bullish? Well, I will talk about that in this video. So if you think that that sounds interesting, then I think that you should definitely watch this video. Hello guys, and welcome to the moon. My name is Carl. I'm going to bring in this cryptocurrency video, and let's take a look at the Bitcoin price. And in this video, I actually want to talk about the fact that we seem to be forming a small tightening range here in the smaller time frame, and it looks like we should be seeing a breakout out of this very, very soon. And I quickly got into this yesterday by talking about the fact that we do have a resistance line coming down like this, where we have the two tops of the falling wedges, which creates this resistance for the price where we are right now. And we also have the 4-hourly EMA ribbon coming in here from down under, and is going to come in and support the Bitcoin price here. And this gives us a very, very important point here, where I believe that Bitcoin is either going to create another big spike like this, so a continuation of that, which we have seen two of, one there and one there. And the other scenario is actually where the bull trend here in the 4-hourly is lost, and where Bitcoin breaks down below the 4-hourly and corrects down. I don't believe that there is going to be any scenario where we go completely sideways here. I believe that that is highly unlikely, and I will assume that that is not going to happen. And so what I expect is big volatility. And let's take a look at that. So let's actually take away that little thing and take a look at the 4-hourly here. We can clearly see that we have a well-defined support line down here like that, and we have a resistance up here. And I guess you could argue, if you want to use only the full bodies, to do something maybe like this, which would actually give us an ascending triangle. But I will use the wicks for right now, just because I think that, yeah, let's just do that. No matter what, we are still getting a tightening range here, and this is probably going to break out very, very soon. And I also want to take a look at the volume, because remember that volume is key. If we see declining volume in a tightening range, then we can know for sure that we are going to see a big breakout. And looking at the volume, we can see that it's very, very obviously going down. And if you have been following my channel, and if you're one of my subscribers, you know that this indicates that a big move is incoming. We are going to see a breakout, and that is going to be very, very profitable to trade. And I think we have a pretty well-defined support line down here. I believe that that is going to be an interesting line. If we break that, we should expect volatility, and also this line to the upside. And yeah, just like I said, you could also put a horizontal line kind of like this. I would probably put that right there, and that would be the $3,957 line. So that is going to be a line on which, if we break above, that could actually give us a surge to the upside, I believe. And the momentum right now is obviously shifted to the upside. Pretty much everything is pointing towards the fact that we are seeing momentum being shifted to the upside. We have, for example, the 4-hourly ribbon. We have already talked a lot about that, but it is still in a clear uptrend. We saw a bounce right there. We are right now maybe going to see a bounce, but we are above the 4-hourly ribbon, which is the key. That means we're in a bull trend. And also, if we go to the daily EMA ribbon also tells us we are in a bull trend right now, even though we are not in a bull trend on the daily time frame as a whole, because we are still only establishing lower highs. So I'm not saying we are in a bull trend on the daily time frame, but the daily EMA ribbon, we have broken bullish above the daily EMA ribbon, and that is something we should take note of. I believe that could also indicate that maybe the momentum is shifted to the upside, and Bitcoin is trying to establish a bull trend. I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to be able to actually actually shift this whole trend and reverse, but it looks like Bitcoin is trying. But not only that, if we actually go over to the weekly time frame, I also talked about this in yesterday's video, that the weekly stochastic is very clearly shifted to the upside. And I also want to actually point out the fact that we are getting very close to the previous support in the weekly RSI. So you can see here that the weekly RSI got supported on this line for quite some time, and that is the 43.7 line, and that is probably going to act as resistance, but it's still a little bit of ways to go up to that level. If we zoom in, you can see that there is still room to go up, but yeah, that could actually act as resistance. As we've seen before, RSI resistance levels and support levels, absolutely, they are significant. And so the weekly time frame looks bullish actually. The one argument I can see right now against a bullish move is the fact that on the daily we seem to be quite overbought right now, or at least we are getting overbought in the current bear trend. Remember what we talked about, that in a bear trend we rarely, or we shouldn't actually go above the 70 level, and we haven't done that one single time in this whole bear market. The only time was this time, but that was actually more of a fake out because there was no volume right there. There was no indication that we were going to see a massive bull run from that point, because yeah, we were overbought and we saw a big bearish divergence, if you remember it and if you followed my videos back then. But yeah, so this was just a fake out, and the last time we were decisively above the 70 level was back in the all-time high right there. So breaking above this level decisively would be the first time ever since the all-time high, so when the bull run ended. So maybe that could be an indication that the bull run is starting, if we actually see a big bullish move to the upside right here in the RSI. But this also means that there will be a lot of resistance in the 70 level, because we are in a bear trend, we are still in the bear market. And so it would make sense to get rejected here in the RSI, and we are actually in the higher regions in the stochastic. And I've already said this many times, but as you can see, every time we go up in these levels we seem to be topping out, at least locally. It does not mean that we cannot go up more, at least in the last final push, but in the daily time frame we don't have momentum needed for a big push. So I'm not really sure if we're going to be able to replicate the big push we saw there or right there. So if we do see a push to the upside, it's probably not going to be a 9% spike or something like that. So I guess the summary in the stochastic and the RSI is that the weekly looks bullish, the daily looks like we're topping out right now. So that is kind of conflicting a little bit. But if we just draw a few lines here in the chart, I would probably have to say that, I mean, breaking this line should be significant. That should probably give us a nice little surge to the upside, and this is what gives us the resistance here. But I would probably say that just like I talked about in a few videos back, and I think yesterday as well, it's possible that we might form a ascending triangle here. We did see this falling wedge, broke to the upside, falling wedge, and now we broke to the upside. Maybe we are going to form this ascending triangle, and this very important level in that case of 4,230 is going to act as resistance, just like it did back there and back there. And I think that's possible, and this would actually make sense, because if we were to break to the upside in this current bull move here, something like this, then we would actually be going up towards this level, as you can see. So I guess that could make sense in the bigger time frame right now. So what I would say here, the two different scenarios, if we were to break to the downside, I would probably say that we are going to maybe form another falling wedge, just like we've been talking about. And if we break to the upside, we're probably going to go up and test towards the 4.2k level up here. So yeah, I think that those might be the two scenarios we have to deal with here, and obviously you can trade either way. And so yeah, but the summary here is that we do see the declining volume. That is to me the main issue here, that truly tells us that we are seeing a tightening range. We are going to see a big breakout at some point, and that is probably going to come very soon. And let me actually take a look at Ethereum as well. This is Ethereum against the US dollar. Let's go to the 4-hourly time frame, because here it looks like we're getting a very nice setup for a play. So let's take a look at the resistance and support we have here. First of all, we have something similar to the Bitcoin price. We have a upwards turning support like that, and then we also have a resistance up here, and You could put it horizontally or a little bit slightly upwards, something like that. It doesn't really matter, but what we are left with is something that looks very similar to a classic bull pennant. And let's just take a look at why we are forming a resistance right there. And it gets very obvious when you zoom out a little bit. You can see that there has been a lot of support and resistance at this very line. You can see resistance right there, support for this whole period of time right there. And that is exactly where Ethereum is trying and struggling to pull through. And this is the $147 area. And I believe that if Ethereum is able to push through this level, then quite obviously we are going to see a nice push to the upside. And you can call this a bull pennant or you can call it an ascending triangle, but no matter what you call it, it is actually a bullish setup. So it should be likelier that we push to the upside rather than the downside. And yeah, given that this resistance is a big resistance line, pushing to the upside here is probably going to mean an explosive move. And obviously we cannot guarantee that we are going to push to the upside, but if we do, yeah, we're probably going to see a nice move to the upside. And looking at some resistance, I mean, the next obvious resistance is going to be the previous top, which was right there. And if we were to measure this like a classical bull pennant, we would do something like this. And that would tell us that Ethereum might be able to push towards $170. And I would love to just keep in mind that we do have this resistance here. So I think that if we push through the resistance here, we're probably, and it's very likely that we're going up towards this level, which is the $159 level. But the target in the classical textbook trade would be up here at $170. And just looking at the ribbon, which I love looking at, especially in Ethereum, because just like I've said so many times, whenever we are above the ribbon, we seem to be in an uptrend. When we are below it, as you can see, we are in a downtrend, and that just continues until we see a decisive break, and we are still above the 4-hourly ribbon. So as long as we are above the ribbon, we should expect the Ethereum price to continue to head higher, because that is more likely based on the 4-hourly ribbon. But obviously, as soon as we break below the 4-hourly ribbon, then we should expect a big correction and a bear trend. Currently, we are in a bull trend. And let's take a quick look at the volume. And here in Ethereum, we can absolutely see that the volume is definitely declining, showing us that we are in this tightening range and that we are going to see a breakout out of this very soon. And next up, the Lightning Torch has actually been received by Fidelity Digital Assets. So who should we pass it on to? So yeah, right now, obviously we're not seeing the average Joes accepting the Lightning Torch, but we are seeing big names like Jack Dorsey and Elizabeth Stark, and right now we're seeing Fidelity Digital Assets accepting this Lightning Torch. So I guess that's only going to continue. And guys, please comment down below in the comment sections, who would you love to see accepting the Lightning Torch? It could be anyone, it could be the president, it could be whoever you want. Please just comment down below someone you would love to see accepting the Lightning Torch and why. And next up, I just want to quickly go through some of the fundamentals right now, because the fundamentals look extremely bullish. Pretty much all the fundamentals are right now showing us that we are seeing strengthening fundamentals, and while we are seeing the price going down. So that is the big divergence that I like to call it, where the price goes down, fundamentals goes up, and eventually I think that these are going to meet again and start to move in correlation. But so what we can see here is the Bitcoin volume and also the average commission per transaction. So we see the fees. You might remember the big all-time high in fees when we saw the Bitcoin price reach an all-time high, and the average fee actually reached $50 per transaction. So that was the average fee per transaction for a small period of time right there, but that was of course ridiculous. Right now the fees are way down to $0.18. That's extremely low, but you can see down here that the transactions sum per 24 hours and the transactions count 24 hours are actually coming back up towards the levels at which they were back in the all-time high, but the fees are ridiculously low. And I mean, that must be bullish, right? That just seems like we are getting stronger in the fundamentals. And one of the major reasons why people started to sell Bitcoin and saying that Bitcoin didn't work and Bitcoin wasn't scaling was obviously because of the high fees. And right now we're getting closer and closer to the exact levels we were back then, and the fees are, I mean, $0.18. That is ridiculous, guys. And I think it's only a matter of time before people realize this and the free market starts to kind of, trade based on the fundamentals rather than the fear and panic we see in the media. And yeah, I think that's coming very soon. And we can also see that overall the Bitcoin volatility is going down. So this is the volatility index, the 30-day volatility for Bitcoin. And this is ever since 2011, so we can see that the volatility has been going down. And if this is at 10, that means that the average volatility for the last 30 days was 10%. And you can see that the biggest volatility we saw back in 2011 was actually up above 15, and then in 13 the peak volatility was below 15, and in 2014 the peak volatility was maybe 13, something like that. And you can see that the volatility has been going down, and the peak volatility back in 2018 was actually only maybe 6, 7, something like that. And right now you can see that the volatility is still going down. And I think that this is inevitable. As liquidity increases, we are going to see the volatility go down. And but that's way down the line, many years in the future, when Bitcoin is worth trillions of dollars in market cap, because at that point there's going to be so much liquidity that moving Bitcoin 1 single percent is going to take so much money. While right now the market cap is ridiculously low. I mean, where the total market cap for the whole crypto space is $135 billion. That is very, very low. And the market cap for Bitcoin is actually only 70 billion. That is a drop in an ocean looking at the big financial markets. And the low market cap, that is why we are seeing big volatility right now. And remember that store of value, that is the main thing for Bitcoin, I think, right now. Before becoming a medium of exchange, I think it first has to serve as a store of value, and the decline in volatility is perfect for a store of value. And so in other words, so far Bitcoin is absolutely on the right track of becoming the best store of value there is out there. But this is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you click down here, you can watch that video. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.